Moving on to some other guys, like I think Max Domi in this game, this was a classic Max Domi game, right? Like, he for me, he starts off the game strong. He had that backhand off the crossbar and whatnot. But for me, Domi, he comes back from being healthy scratched. He was kind of sharing time with Cowan, being healthy scratched. But I think that play that he made there, that backhand to Matthews, it was so world, like how many players in the National Hockey League can make that pass? But also, how many players in the National Hockey League can make as dumb of a play as Max Domi had on that high sticking that costed the Leafs? It was tied at 4-4. He took the dumb penalty. Now it's 5-4. Then Domi starts kicking in because he knows I was a healthy scratch. He could easily be a healthy scratch again. And those stupid penalties that he takes is what costs Max Domi. It's his defensive game and it's those stupid penalties. He takes a stupid penalty, and minutes later, he makes one of the nicest passes I've ever seen to Austin Matthews. This is why Max Domi is so frustrating, because that contract, that 4-year, $3.75 million contract, we've seen it so many times where Domi can play at that elite level. A couple years ago, I call it the Bertuzzi year, the year that they lost to Boston, because that Bertuzzi Matthews Domi line was so dominant at times during that season. I believe Max Domi was up there, if not first, in 5v5 assists, right? Like, he has that potential, but he takes so many dumb penalties and he is terrible defensively. So this was I call it a Max Domi game. Takes a terrible penalty and then minutes later makes an out of this world pass to Austin Matthews, and he's kicking into high gear. He's winning every puck battle. He's racing, right? Max Domi has those little short legs, but he can fly, right? So I think with Domi, it's like seeing that consistency that's why Tree Living signed him to that $3.75 million deal, because he's one of the best passers in the league when he's on his game. He's proven it in his career, as I stated earlier, with his 5v5 assists a couple seasons ago. And I think, obviously, with the Leafs losing Marner, Domi's playmaking is obviously going to be a big need for this team. We just need to see that consistency out of him and his defensive game. And, I will say, it's tough. I've been very critical of Max Domi because I think that he hasn't really fit in on this team other than when it was Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi as a line, right? And what's the line right now? It's McMahon, Matthews, Domi. It's that same style, and that's the only way I've seen Max Domi fit into this roster, because he's not good at center. I don't love him on the wing because he's terrible on the boards. He can't make any plays out of his own zone off the half wall. And he really only excels when he's playing with one of the best players in the world in Austin Matthews. So where's the value? Well, the value is in his playmaking ability, so he needs to bring that, and I think he's doing it at this point. And since getting scratched, I've liked his game way more. And, of course, shooting the puck. This guy is much more of a threat, Max Domi is, when he's shooting the puck. Again, I'll call it a Max Domi classic game because that's what I feel this game was. But yeah, I want to see more from Max Domi. But it's very interesting. Like I said, right, his best games as a Leaf are with Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi, and now we are seeing some more of his best games as a Leaf finally after a couple years here, and it's McMahon, Matthews, Domi. He hasn't really fit in with Tavares and Nylander on the second line. He's never been a guy who you want on your third line, and well, what are you going to do? Play him on your fourth line at almost $4 million? That's just negative value at that point. But I think finding that for Max Domi, finding his game, because he is one of the best playmakers when he's on his game. So consistency is the name of the game for Max Domi, in my opinion. We'll move on from Domi, because another guy who had a fantastic game was Matias Maccelli. And man, similar to Domi. And I'll tell you one thing with the Leafs that I haven't liked this season is their use of Domi and Maccelli. I've never seen a team push for guys to be players that they are not as hard as Domi and Maccelli, and it's because Marner isn't here anymore, and Craig Berube knows Domi and Maccelli are the playmakers, right? So, whether it was in overtime a couple games ago, right, against Detroit, I believe it was, yes, against Detroit, Domi and Maccelli were out there when it should have been McMahon and Robertson, right? On the power play, Maccelli is on the first power play unit. That's fine. The thing that I don't want is Maccelli being the guy who's bringing the puck up the ice on that power. That's ridiculous. I'm fine with him on the first power play unit. I think he can be a weapon with his passing ability, but why do we need Matias Maccelli being the guy who's getting the drop pass? Hello, Matthews, Nylander, like these guys are your 11, $12 million players, not your $3.5 million Matias Michelli. I'm fine with him on the first power play unit, but let's not run the power play through Matias Michelli, please. Let's save everybody the headache because he was messing up like crazy.